Why Chinese hosts never fill your teacup, Liu Yida's Chinese etiquette, and the rules that shape a civilization. If you've never been to China, here's a small mystery you'll eventually run into. You're a guest in a Chinese home. Your host keeps refilling your tea, but never to the top. You finish the cup and somehow it's full again, stopped an inch short of the rim. You try to do the same for them, and they wave it off almost offended. Or maybe you've watched two Chinese colleagues, both sharp, both capable, and notice that one moves through life like a warm current. Opportunities find him, doors open, while the other keeps hitting walls no one can see. There's a word for that difference. In Chinese, it's Guiju, pronounced Guiju. You can translate it as rules, etiquette, or manners. None of those quite land. Liu Yida, a Beijing-born writer, has spent more than 40 years writing about the everyday lives of ordinary people. And in his book Chinese Etiquette, he does something rare. He writes down, one by one, the unspoken rules that Chinese people have followed for 1,000 years. At the table, at the door, in conversation, in how they dress. Part 1, the book and the argument underneath it. Liu Yida is a native of Beijing, and he writes in a style Chinese readers call Jingweir, a Beijing flavor, the rhythm and humor of the old city. For 4 decades he has watched how ordinary people actually get along, and this book is his record of it. But Chinese etiquette is not a list of don'ts. Early in the book, Liu Yida makes a claim that sounds almost strange to modern ears. He says the rules are not there to bind you. The rules, he writes, are a kind of faith baked into the bones of Chinese people. Think about what that means. In much of the West, we treat etiquette as optional polish, something you learn if you want to climb the social ladder. Here, it's framed as something deeper, a quiet belief about how a person should move through the world. And it explains the mystery from the opening. Two people with the same ability. One keeps stumbling, one keeps sailing. The gap, Liu Yida argues, is almost always hidden in these old rules that everyone ignores. Part 2, how you sit, how you eat. The rules that start at your own front door. The first set of rules is about daily conduct, how you carry your body at home. In a traditional Chinese household, the way you sit and the way you stand is treated as a mirror. It reflects your upbringing and your character. The old phrase is, sit with the posture of sitting, stand with the posture of standing. This is not about putting on airs. It is a silent introduction of yourself. The table is where it gets detailed. Don't slurp your food, the Chinese call this baji zui, and to an older generation it reads as disrespect to everyone sharing the meal. Don't tap your bowl with your chopsticks. That gesture echoes begging for food, and it's an embarrassment no one wants at the table. Keep both hands where people can see them, resting on the table, not tucked underneath. A hand hidden below the edge looks like you have something to hide. And the rules begin before you ever sit down to eat. In a traditional home, you announce yourself when you leave, step out the door and say where you're going. You check in when you return. You greet your elders morning and night. You do not scold your child in front of others, and you do not air the family's private troubles to the outside world. The rules, Liu Yida shows, start at the front door of your own house. Part 3, hosting a guest. A social card you hand over without speaking. The second set of rules is about being a host, and here the details are a kind of business card. When a guest arrives, you seat them and you pour tea, but you do not fill the cup. There's an old saying, full wine shows respect, full tea shows insult. Fill the wine to the brim to show honor. But tea served to the top is too hot to hold, and the guest ends up juggling a burning cup, an awkwardness you created. So the host stops short. It's a small act of care disguised as a small act of restraint. When the guest leaves, you walk them out. A close friend, you see down the stairs. An honored guest, you walk all the way to the car and watch them drive away. Liu Yida points out a telltale moment. The host who says, stay a little longer while already reaching for their coat. That's saying one thing and doing another, and the guest feels the insincerity. Real hosting is either a genuine hold or a clean, warm goodbye. Words and body must agree. Part 4, how to deal with people without annoying them. The third set is about socializing, and Liu Yida uses the group dinner as its example. When you invite people out, the considerate host settles the bill quietly in advance. He slips to the counter while no one is looking, rather than staging a tug-of-war at the table where everyone grabs for the check. If the group really wants to split it, say so up front, and each pays their own, clean and simple. Showing off by ordering only the most expensive dishes, or flipping through the menu comparing prices in front of guests. In the traditional view, that is rude. The host who truly cares hands the menu to the guest and lets them choose. The engine underneath all of this is simple. Don't embarrass people and don't make them calculate. Make the other person comfortable, and you've done the hard part of getting along. Part 5, Courtesy as Lubrication, and Dressing as Respect. The fourth set is about courtesy itself, and Liu Yida has a line I love. Courtesy is not a restraint, he says. Courtesy is the lubricant between people. Two gears with no oil will grind and wear. Two people with no courtesy will, sooner or later, rub each other raw. The traditional rules cover the cupped hand salute, the gongshou, and the handshake. Two hands clasped shows respect. One hand shows equality, and about 3 seconds before you let go is the most graceful. But the book spends its real energy on something harder to name. Fencun, a sense of proportion. When someone shares good news, you congratulate first and do not immediately interrogate their income or their wedding plans. When someone confides a struggle, you listen first and do not rush in with advice. You can read a person's fencun in a few sentences. The fifth set is about dress, and the traditional view is blunt. Dressing up is not vanity, it is respect for the occasion. The phrase goes, dress to fit the person you're meeting. Read the room. No head-to-toe black at a wedding. No head-to-toe red at a funeral. No flip-flops and shorts for a business deal. And Liu Yida stresses the part that travels across cultures. Clean beats expensive. Your clothes need not be costly, but they must be tidy. A person who cannot even manage themselves is hard to trust with anything that matters. Part 6, An Open China still runs on these rules. Here is where the book gets honest about the present. Today's China is open, mobile, deeply connected to the world. Young people chase efficiency and prize individuality, and a lot of the old rules look fussy, even stale. Liu Yida does not pretend otherwise. But he makes a distinction. The rules are not a fixed scripture. They are the underlying code of a culture, the logic running beneath the surface. The form can be rewritten. The core cannot be lost. Times change. You may not cup your hands in greeting anymore, but the respect underneath has not moved. You may not lay out a Manchuhan banquet, the lavish imperial feast of dozens of dishes, but the duty to make the guest comfortable has not moved. In open China, these rules have not disappeared. They continue in new clothes. Punctuality and reliability at work, proportion and dignity in friendship, sincerity and attentiveness when you host. Underneath, it is the same logic carried for 1,000 years. And Liu Yida issues a warning that lands hard. Many of these rules were dropped by this generation because the chain of passing them on broke. In the past, parents and grandparents taught them by ear, day after day. Now children grow up in tutoring centers and online, and only when they hit the real world do they realize they never learned how to leisure, how to handle a situation, how to read a room. So the book is written for the young and for parents too. If you want your child to go far, grades are not enough. You have to teach the rules. The rules are a person's second face. However high your degree, without them you still lose out. Closing, the more open the world, the more these rules matter. Chinese etiquette walks through 5 areas: daily conduct, hosting, socializing, courtesy, dressing, and lays out, clearly, the 1,000-year way Chinese people have learned to get along. This message is the one Liu Yida keeps returning to. The rules are not restraint. They are belief. Not form but respect. Not etiquette for show but wisdom. The more open an era becomes, the more it needs these rules. Because what they point to was never closure or nostalgia. They point to the basic cultivation of making others comfortable and widening your own road. Understand them, and that particular Chinese warmth, the care, the proportion, keeps shining in modern life. In ease, you find real freedom. So when you're invited into a Chinese home, the safest move is to let your host lead. The refills, the walk to the car, the quietly settled bill, and never fight it. That's the whole rule in one gesture. If you're watching from outside China, tell me in the comments which of these rules surprised you most, or which one you wish someone had told you before you came. And if you've been, tell me the moment it first clicked. I read every one.